Hi, Mike Kennedy here. We're following up with this $8 multi-tool from uh, Walmart Ozark Trail. You know, someone mentioned to me, they said, well, gee, I wish I had a nice Leatherman. Well, I haven't had one for years, years and years, and I misplaced it. I'm hoping to still find it. But I decided to see the least expensive thing I could get that would still have some functionality. And so I came back with this. I happen to have a $5 uh, gift card, which I got for filling out a survey. I'm on this thing where they ask questions once in a while and they actually pay you, unlike some other places. And I filled out this, questionnaire that probably took 2 or 3 minutes for the alarm system, the emergency alert system that went out on cell phones. So I ended up spending $3 and something instead of 8. Here we have tax, so I assume this was $7.99. So what I want to say first about it, this was really hard to open. Now I must admit my Leatherman, when I first got it, was hard to open too, but this took it to a whole new level. And once you opened it, it was extremely hard to close. But you can see it's easy now. Well, oil. Now, I happen to be ordering something from Victorinox anyway, so I got some of their Multitool oil. And why did I buy this? Well, I got it because I wanted something non-toxic. And yeah, you can, if you're going to use your knife for food, this might be a good idea to get something like this. I could have bought this locally too, I'm sure, at a much better price for a larger quantity. And if you're not going to be using your toilet, and face it too, is if you're oiling the joints, that isn't necessarily going to get on the blades, and the amount of oil you're using is going to be fairly minimal. So the idea might be overkill, but I decided to go for it. So, like I say, this now closes and opens remarkably better than it used to. And that is from just opening, closing it a bunch of times, but also from the oil. Deploying the tools inside was very stiff too. Now I've got the regular blade, the sharp blade, coming out really easily, and these don't have locking blades, but in a way, this blade can't really close up on your hand because you hopefully have closed the tool to use the blade. So that's definitely a plus. Now, some of the other tools are still hard to deploy, and this side is a little better than the other side, but I'm sure with a little more oil and just working that oil in and working that metal back and forth, it's going to be a lot easier. The serrated blade, it's funny. They call this a saw. Well, it's not a saw. It's nothing like a saw. It's a serrated blade. And one thing you'll notice, I guess I didn't notice this till a while ago, till I started comparing things, but most serrated blades are one-sided. And what do I mean by that? There's a bevel on this side, but when you switch to the other side, it's flat. In other words, I don't know if you can see it there, but there's no bevel there, appreciable bevel at the end. There is a little as it comes up to the base of the back, the spine of the knife, but it's flat, and the actual kind of like divots that make it so sharp are on the opposite side. And they do that because it creates a much stronger serrated blade. In other words, you can imagine if you had these little peaks on your knife and they were, instead of being like this, they were like this, you could see that end could get damaged quite a bit more easily. And it's always funny when I see, I don't know, people testing knives and they take a serrated blade and they beat it with something and, to split wood, kindling, and then they say, oh, gee, this knife didn't didn't work well. And it's like, yeah, you're using it backwards. You're using it for something it's not made for. Of course it's not going to work right. So, no matter what anyone tells you, you don't pummel, you don't baton something with a serrated edge. It just doesn't work good. You're just going to destroy your knife. And if you destroy your knife, it's your own fault. I saw another knife review recently where, the Victorinox came out with some new fixed blade full tang knives, okay? And they're around 100 or so. And, again, see someone on a site beating it with another piece of wood, jamming it through stuff, and you can tell it isn't that thick. And then the guy complained that he could see that he had warped his blade. And it's like, yeah, it's not made for that. We in the U.S. tend to think, I want something, I want a knife that I can, dig up the Grand Canyon in one scoop. And that's not the knife philosophy that probably most other people have. The three knife philosophy, which is true with our, ancestors in the period of woodsmen and things like that. They had an axe or hatchet. They had a butcher type knife, or the medium knife that we might think of as kind of a survival type knife. And then they had a small pocket knife. And so they had the three tools. They wanted to take in the pocket knife or the medium knife and beat on wood with it because they wanted to save those blades. They couldn't afford to remove them, destroy them, because they were expensive. Or maybe if they even made them, they were a blacksmith and made them themselves, a lot of effort went into it. So you would use your axe for the thing you're supposed to use an axe for. You use the medium knife for things like, skinning game and doing all kinds of other chores like that. And then for fine whittling and things, you would use a kind of a pen knife, a folding knife with a small blade. A story was recounted about one guy who had broken the stock of his rifle, when he's out in the wilderness. This is way back in time. So it's like, he has to have a gun that works. That's his food. If he can't shoot food and get food, he's going to die. So he got a piece of wood and he whittled one down and made it, fine so it'd work, and put it on, got the other stock off and put a new one on, and boom, he was back in business again. Now, whether he kept that one, or maybe when he got home, he might have embellished it or whatever, but, he did what needed to be done, and he had the tools that he needed to do it. So that was a rant. I don't know why I went into that. But, so, you do have the serrated blade, and the serrated blade is better for a lot of things that are fibrous. A lot of rope cutting is better with this. If you're doing some cardboard things, if you're going to try to cut a seat belt, there are certain things that a serrated blade excel in. And if you're into bushcraft, a lot of bushcraft people hate serrated blades, and they see no point for them. They hate them, they hate them, they hate them. And it's like, well, you got to know what they're for, not hate them, use them for what they're made for, and you'll be fine. And you use your straight edge for what a straight edge is for. And, if you have trouble with something with the flat edge knife, the regular edge knife, and it's fibrous or whatever, you might actually find that you wish you had a serrated blade with you. And that's what I liked so much about the Leatherman Wave. Now, of course, these tools are all in the center. They have to be open up to be deployed. Some of the other tools are, let me try to get, though, you can see me getting the file out. Oh, it pulled two other tools out with it. The tools do have, yeah, sure they do. See, this is really stiff. You can see two other tools came out with it. So I'll work on this more. Well, let's do it right now. Let's put some more oil on them while we're thinking of it. I'm going to put it down at the base of the blade so that, and the side here, I'm going to put some in there, but I'm going to get some in between the joints that touch other blades, And I'm sure eventually these will loosen up just fine, but I'll have to do it a bunch of times. And, you know, if I'm sitting watching TV or something, I might just take this out and do that a few times every once in a while. And like I say, with the overall tool, I got fairly stellar results from that, doing that. So one thing I thought was, though, a lot of times people want to, you know, they want a 90-degree edge somewhere to start, to strike a ferro rod. So here's a ferro rod. This is one on my keychain, so it's the hard type, which is the cheap type, which is the type that doesn't work as well as a soft type. But if you have the soft type, you know, it's going to get damaged, you know, rolling around in your pocket with other stuff. And the soft type can actually, just moisture can destroy it. So there is a purpose for the cheaper ones. So what I'm noticing then is, where am I going to get a 90-degree edge? It certainly isn't going to be on the back of a knife. These knives, maybe what I'm hoping here is that one of the edges of the file is going to be close enough to 90 degrees so that I can get some sparks off of it. Now, you can use your knife, the regular sharp edge of the knife, and frankly, if I was in a survival situation and I need to fire fast, I would use my knife. And sometimes people say, oh, you can't do that. You know, I'll get a kink in my knife that I have to take care of later, and if I survive, because I needed to start a fire. So I think if I use this enough, yeah. See, the file, and normally like you would be pulling it away from you instead of pulling this, but instead of going like this, but it's just easier for me to do it that way. And so we have something that we can strike on a ferro rod. A lot of the other places you're not going to be able to, because they've purposely not made the pieces sharp on the edges, because they know you're going to handle them. So I just wanted to show that with this knife, that, you know, we got a $9 knife, we've got some oil, and you can use any type of oil you can, but I guess if you're going to use it for food, you know, cutting up an apple when you're out or something to eat, you might want to consider something that's non-toxic. But really, no matter what oil you put on these joints, it probably isn't going to get a significant amount of it on one of the tools that you're actually going to do the cutting with. So there we go. And would I want this or the Leatherman Wave Plus? Well, the Leatherman Wave Plus, of course, but this is $8. So I guess I can see taking one of these, you know, using it, loosening it all up, then putting it in for an emergency, for a backup knife. Because I'll tell you, I certainly would like this than nothing. Say I lost a knife, or I broke a knife, or something, I would still rather have this than nothing. So we're going to do a few more things with it. We're going to try some other tasks with the other tools, but I just wanted to show that it is possible to have a multi-tool that costs only $8 and still be able to do something with it. And they're at Walmart's. That's their brand, Ozark Trail. And yeah, I had to ask to see it because there wasn't a peg with the code numbers on it to put it on. So the department manager had like 3 or 4 of them, and they were down under somewhere where you couldn't see them. So if you don't see it, ask. Bling! For the price, it works. And it works well enough to be able to do some real world things with it. Bye.